DeMar DeRozan scores 46 points, becoming third on the list of most 45-point games in Chicago Bulls history, third only to Michael Jordan and Zach LaVine in an overtime victory over the Indiana Pacers. We're going to talk about it, break it all down, have some fun, but first, we got to play that winning intro.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
I see red, I see red, I see red, I see red, yeah, I see red, I see red, I see red, I see.
Being a Bulls fan is never without its exciting days and random days. The Chicago Bulls play in a playoff atmosphere, come back from being down at one point. They win the game. It's just the way that the Bulls executed down the stretch of the game, even though Kobe White went down in this game, which hopefully he's not going to miss any extended time. He hasn't missed a game yet this season. But the Chicago Bulls still get this victory, ratcheting up the defense late in the game. But DeMar DeRozan is the biggest reason why the Chicago Bulls won this game, putting the team on his back really since the second quarter of this game. He goes 15 of 24 in this game for 46 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block from DeMar DeRozan in this game. Nikola Vucevic even hits a big bucket down the stretch for the Bulls, scoring 12 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. Kobe White with 15 points, going 6 of 17, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block from Kobe. Kobe really seemed like he was starting to get in rhythm, go back into that clutch Kobe. Unfortunately, he goes down with a leg injury, it appears. Let's hope everything's okay there. Alex Caruso scores his first 20-point game since November of 2023, scoring 23 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, 9 of 13 shooting from the field. Ayo Dosunmu, 20 points in this game as well, 7 of 12. And then you got Torrey Craig leading the way with 22 minutes off the bench, 10 points in that time, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Torrey Craig back to being that ultimate role player for the Chicago Bulls as well. Dalen Terry gets 5 minutes in this game, 1 point scored by Dalen Terry. Julian Phillips gets 11, no points. Arnold Lopp gets 13 minutes, 2 points in that time. And Andre Drummond with 10 minutes and 3 points. No Javon Carter, no Terry Taylor in this game, but the Bulls do get the dub against the number one scoring offense in the NBA. Now, they're the bottom third as far as defensive teams in the NBA, but the Indiana Pacers did come in here with the best field goal shooting percentage, the 6th best three-point shooting percentage, and overall the most points scored per game as well. And for the credit, the Chicago Bulls do hit 10 three-pointers in this game, going 35% from three-point range, whereas the Indiana Pacers hit 14, but go 14 of 45 for 31%. So the Chicago Bulls matched their percentage, shot better than them technically, and all the Bulls have to do in games against three-point shooting teams is just make enough to keep it the discrepancy close and then guard well enough to make them have inefficient nights. They were able to do that tonight where the Chicago Bulls also won the rebounding battle by 1, which is good. They were losing it by quite a bit in the first half of this game. But the Bulls won off fast break points. They lost the second chance point battle. That's cool. And then the points in the paint battle, 58-56 in favor of the Pacers, but the Bulls being able to keep it real close and tight in there. And then 6 steals by the Chicago Bulls as well. This is a team that didn't really turn the ball over a lot to the Indiana Pacers. They only had 8 turnovers to the Bulls, 11 overall in this game. But again, the Bulls kept that discrepancy close enough to be in a position to win this game. And that's all you really look for the Chicago Bulls in games like this. They took care of business, and that's what it's about. That's all it's about is the Bulls taking care of business. They did that tonight. They got a much-needed victory. This is going to count really well in them for the standings, especially considering where the Pacers are in those standings as well. The Chicago Bulls want to keep creating that space. Right now, the Atlanta Hawks, for what it's worth, they're up by 5 against the Portland Trail Blazers. We'll see however that shakes out. It is the Portland Trail Blazers. They'll probably win that game. So we'll get to see how the Bulls, they get closer now to 500, 2 games below 500 with 16 games left on the season. Can the Bulls win 2 more games than they lose to get to 500? Even though, like I said on today's daily episode, it really doesn't matter if they get to 500 in the grand scheme of things. It really doesn't matter. But, this is the type of game that the Chicago Bulls win. And was it frustrating? Yeah. And it's going to be frustrating, unfortunately, with this team. They're always going to frustrate you at times, but they took care of business where they needed to take care of it the most. And they were able to get the victory. And that is the most important thing, especially as they're marching forward to try to get into that play-in spot, trying to really seal that deal of the Chicago Bulls. And if they can do that, hey, we'll see what they can do in the play-in tournament, right? Biggest thing now is we want to make sure that Kobe White's going to be okay, because that would be such a huge loss for the Chicago Bulls if he misses any time. And we do have a back-to-back. Sorry. And I will not be surprised if, gotta take a swig of beer on that one. I will not be surprised if the Chicago Bull, if he sits out tomorrow's game, just by the nature of it being a back-to-back. So, we'll see how they can perform without Kobe White. Is the type of game as well it's that the Bulls could and probably should consider sitting him if he's dinged up at all. Could very well be once the adrenaline stop, he's fine. He'll be ready to go tomorrow, maybe with a minutes restriction. But if he's going to be out tomorrow, it can be pretty bad for it. So, we'll see what happens with that. When the Bulls tomorrow do face off, who do we face tomorrow? I know it's not a great team. Tomorrow we face off against the Clippers. Oh, no, it is a great team. Face off against the Clippers. So we definitely want to have Kobe White on deck if possible against the Los Angeles Clippers. So, we'll see what happens with that one, man. I'm not going to say it's going to happen for sure. We'll see what happens. Keep monitoring it tonight. If they release anything tonight, either while we're on this live stream or any other time, you guys know I will talk about it, or I will drop an episode on it. So you ain't got to worry about that. If news drops, we drop around here. So you will get that content. But overall, listen, hopefully Kobe's all right. But outside of that, man, this is a really good win by the Chicago Bulls. Really good win by the Bulls. And I'm happy they were able to pull this game out. And DeMar DeRozan, man. DeMar DeRozan, when I've always said it, right? I have my problems with DeMar as far as what his skill set is, right? As far as how it relates to modern basketball. But when DeMar's in this rhythm and he's going, it's so hard to stop DeMar DeRozan because teams know exactly what DeMar is going to do, and he's able to do it anyway. That's the thing that makes DeMar DeRozan so special. Everybody knows where DeMar's spots are. Everybody knows what DeMar is going to try to do. And still to this day, more times than not, you cannot stop it. And he still is going to get it off. And that's crazy. That's crazy to see what happens with that one, man. But, we'll see what happens with that and what the Bulls can do in this play-in scenario and things like that. But overall, I'm really happy, really, really happy that the Chicago Bulls are able to pull out this victory. And now we get to look forward to Clippers again tomorrow. Can we get some revenge? Maybe. It's going to be difficult, especially if Kobe isn't playing. So, we'll see what happens with that one. But, the Bulls are a team that usually respond to big losses really well, right? Big losses they respond to well. Those small kind of losses, those close losses, those can linger on sometimes for the Chicago Bulls team. You can take that for what you will, for what it means to the fight of this team and things like that. But they usually respond to big losses pretty well, and they did that tonight. Let's see if they can, try to avenge a loss to the Clippers tomorrow night, and it's at home, so we get some home cooking. The Bulls get to go home and rest, sleep in their own beds. And we'll see what that's going to mean, man. But let's go ahead and get to some of these comments today, see how you guys are feeling. Michael in the building says, stop doing this to me, Bulls. But damn, that was beautiful. Listen, I tell you what, is it stressful? Yeah, because we love this team. But games like this are the fun games to watch, right? Blowouts are great. Don't get me wrong. If the Bulls get a blowout, it's like, yeah, we did it. But close games like this, especially against good teams, it's always fun. Absolutely agree, Andrew. The ref's no call gave the Pacers the green light to tackle people. That it was the no calls in this game. Like, and the thing is if you're gonna allow a physical game, allow it for both sides, right? I will never come in here and complain if you let both teams be physical and the Bulls just can't match physicality. That's on the Bulls, and if the refs are allowing it. But when you allow one team to be physical, it sucks, man. It sucks. But like I always say, anytime the refs have something, I always say, well, put yourself in a better position as a team. Yes, the refs can be something that holds you back, absolutely. But sometimes the Bulls' own mistakes on top of whatever the refs do or don't do affect the game as well. But this is one of those games where it's like, hey, if you're going to let the physical play happen, cool. A lot of people miss the physical play of basketball. That's all fine and dandy, but allow both teams to be physical. Don't call ticky-tack fouls for one team and then let another team get away with knocking people over. Don't do that. Bulls about to give me a heart attack. Hey, listen, don't allow that to happen. Mel says, man, I hope Kobe is okay. We definitely don't need another blow to our roster at a pivotal time this season. That's going to kill us. Completely agree with you on that one. Completely agree. Bulls for life in the building says, this win goes out to Kobe White. You better be okay, my guy. Hey, I feel you on that one. Beep beep. I don't even know what that means. Shouldn't have even read that comment. Man, the DeMar extension debate is such a tough one. The guy's incredible at what he does. If only he was a few years younger. I mean, and that's the thing, right? And that's why I said it in my video. And some people were like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Listen, when you're third all time on anything and you've only been on the team for 3 years, that you've earned a contract extension. That's why I said it the way that I did, right? And I'm not saying that I've always worded it the best, but that's why I'm glad that I was able to come up with that way to word it. DeMar DeRozan's play has been play that deserves a contract extension, but that doesn't mean the Bulls should give it to him. And that's kind of the unfortunate side effect of all professional sports. Every professional sports team has had to make a tough decision on an older player, regardless of what their performance is. It just has happened. It's happened in football, happens in baseball, it happens in basketball, it happens in hockey, it happens in every major sport. And that is where you put it in a difficult position, because you want to acknowledge that what a player has meant to your team, meant to your franchise, and how well they played. The natural inclination is to reward that, but you also have to view where your team is and where your team's going to be, and how could that extension, that money, affect that how you build that team out. And that's what they have to ask themselves when it comes to the DeMar DeRozan extension. It's not based on his play. The way that he's played for the Chicago Bulls, even being a 34-year-old player that's taken a slight decline, has been a player that earned a contract extension. And notice, I'm not talking about what the value of that extension should be. I'm just saying his play has earned him an extension. Whatever you feel that money on that value should be, that's up to the front office. That's up to DeMar's agent. But that doesn't mean the Bulls have to give it to him. That doesn't mean the Bulls should give it to him. We'll see what happens with that one. Samir says Kobe going to be out for a while. Speak positivity, bro. Speak positivity. It looked bad one time when Alex Caruso went down. He ended up only missing one game. Bulls have me at chronic high blood pressure because I'm seeing red 24/7 now. Hey, see red is such a great catchphrase for this team, not only because, of course, the Bulls and red, but because they will piss you off. They will piss you off. Haize, all I got to say is DeMar, and now we lost another player as a main player too. Shaking my head. Hope all is well with you, Haize, and that beautiful family of yours. Peace and blessings. Thank you, Zay Over, brother. I appreciate you on that one, brother. Sean from Maryland says, no, what the fuck? I hope Kobe is good. Siakam looks like the return to slab monster from Courage the Cowardly Dog. That's crazy. That's crazy. Illinois says you still don't want DeMar on the team. Again, it's about where the team is going, and there's still an argument to be made that extending DeMar DeRozan at the contract that he reportedly wants may not be valuable to the team. Nikola Vucevic is starting to disappoint me, and that's a lot coming from me since I'm his biggest supporter in this chat. Hey, you have been rocking with Nikola Vucevic literally since we started this channel. I remember that first year, the second year for him after the trade. But this first full season here where people were really down on Vooch, and you kept saying, wait till February, wait till March for Vooch. And yeah, I mean, Vooch he's declined, and that's just what it is. His age is caught up with him already after having a really solid season last season, even though this season statistically has all basically been the same. It's basically the same exact stats for last year. It's just that efficiency has dropped so much for him. I'm scared for Kobe. I hope he's okay. The Bulls have a history of point guard injuries. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The Bulls pulled through. I felt like that game was for Kobe. Speaking of that was gnarly. Looks like a hip abductor issue or groin, and a bad one. Come on, man. Come on. I'm trying to keep the positivity right now on it. We don't want to lose another one, man. We don't want to lose another one. Anthony in the building says, great win, Chicago Bulls. Shout out to you, Haize. I appreciate you, Anthony, brother. Glad to have you in the building. Immortal Beast in the building says, prayers out to Kobe White. Hopefully the injury isn't too severe, but this was a good win. Compton in the house. Hey, I'll tell you what, though. This is what I will say, is that if Kobe White is out extended time, the Bulls just need to don't listen. There's 16 games left on the season. If it's anything near, and I know this is going to suck to say, and people are going to say, Haize, you are crazy. If it's anything at all that could be re-aggravated by him coming back at some point this season, just sit him for the rest of the season. Shut him down. I'm sorry. He'll be pissed off at me hearing me say that. I'm a little bit pissed off at hearing me say that. But if it could be re-aggravated if he comes back, you sit him out because he's too important to the future to risk it for a couple of playing games. You got to sit him, in my opinion. That's if it depending on the severity of it. But if it's anything that could be re-aggravated or made worse by trying to play, to me, you got to sit him. You got to sit him. And at that point, let the chips fall where they may when it comes to the play-in, when it comes to whatever else, and just roll the dice at that point. You'll have a lottery pick at that point. Because there's still a chance. We've seen the Bulls next man up mentality. Maybe somebody goes completely off, maybe Io goes off, but at that point, you got to think about the longevity, right? And if it's anything that can be re-aggravated to where it'll affect his offseason, you got to go ahead and sit him down, in my opinion. Cameron said, I scared my wife and clapped too loud. I woke up the kids when DeMar hit that. I think she'd be fine. No, that's hilarious. Shout out to you, Cameron. Hey, says you need to change that header. What header? DeMar DeRozan scores 46 as Bulls outlast the Pacers in OT win. What header do I need to change? Talking about. DeMar snaps and becomes SS1 Goku, Super Saiyan 1 Goku versus Pacers Frieza after Kobe goes down. Krillin passes out. That's funny. But I mean, technically DeMar was going, he had 40 before Kobe went down. He had 40 before then. So see what else we got. The gold hat is pure flames. Appreciate that. Tay Hollins in the building says, I don't care what y'all say. DeMar is him. I mean, listen, DeMar is limited, but when he's in the rhythm, it's hard to stop DeMar DeRozan. Honking my horn all the way from Australia, beep to the fucking beep. That is crazy. That is crazy. I hate the word competitive due to Acme, but even in November, it's nice to see this team not quit so much. Even in November. You're in November right now, bro? What are you in the future or the past? Please, DeRozan, stay with us. Sorry we didn't trade Levine. Bulls front office messed up not getting Siakam. That was never going to happen. That was like, I need people to be realistic. That was never going to happen unless the Bulls were going to include first-round picks. The Bulls were trying to get first-round picks, so that wasn't going to happen. Johan in the building says, hate to be that guy, but I was glad Carter didn't play. I mean, listen, I've said it before. It's about how are you? It's all about how you're performing on the basketball court. And so it is what it is there. I mean, listen, Dalen, Julian, Ernulop, those guys give you more versatility than playing Javon Carter right now. It just is what it is. I mean, unfortunate. That's just the way that it's gone. On God, we had to beat the Pacers and the refs. We need Draymond to hit these refs. That's funny. That is funny. K-Sign in the building says, man, does DeMar have liabilities in this game? Yeah, he's a minus on defense, but I feel like he shouldn't be the main focal point of any offense at his age anyways. That's bars. I mean, but that's where we are on this team. It's much like with Zach, right? Zach, and now that we know, right? I can understand when the team was trying to figure it out, but Zach was thrust as a number one option when really he's probably best suited as a number two to an actual superstar. And that's fine. There's nothing negative about that, right? People take that as like this huge slight, and there's nothing negative about that. Cesar says DeRozan was outclassing the refs. Boy, he is 1,000 times more clutch than Levine. Listen, you ain't got to knock one person to give somebody their props. Herrera says, love how the Bulls hugged at the end, but was up with Corey Craig. He didn't join the hug. Torrey Craig, did he not? I didn't pay attention to it. I was probably setting up the stream at that point. Haize, do you know the last time the Bulls won 3 in a row? Yeah, just like a week ago. And then before that, in December, we won 3 in a row then too. We've had 2 different 3-game winning streaks this season. So we won 3 in a row just now from March 4th to March 7th. Then we won 3 in a row January 5th to January 10th. We won 3 in a row December 18th to December 21st. We've had several 3-game winning streaks this year, several of them. We had another one November 30th to December 6th. That was actually 4-game winning streak from November 30th to December 8th. So the Bulls have had quite a bit of winning streaks this season. Really good win for the Bulls. DeMar comes in and shows out. Kobe injury was ugly. It's been a lot of injuries in the NBA in the past 3 weeks. That's a lot of injuries towards the end of the season. Like it's weird, right? Because usually you see them kind of at the beginning, you see some at the middle. But I can't remember the last time we've seen so many serious injuries with less than 20 games left to play. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Wavy in the building says, in my opinion, Bulls got to choose between Levine and DeMar. Can't bring both back. Well, unfortunately, this is Arturas Carnesova and Marks Eversley. They'll see you can't bring everyone back, and they'll bring everyone back and add Lonzo Ball back to it with him coming back from injury. So I'm just saying, you never know. A gift for Drifter says, good night, Haize. I'm glad for this win, but also worried how dramatical every win is achieved. The physical and mental stress and the minutes pushing for some players are breaking our team in pieces. I mean, like I said, there's that study, and it was a long-term study that playing more minutes actually doesn't risk the chance of injury. Again, those are medical doctors, what they said. I'm not going to dispute them, but definitely you can tell like when the team doesn't have energy, right? When the team has gone through a lot. And there is something to be said about how close these games are for the Bulls to win these games. Like I think out of the Bulls' last 4 victories, at least 3 of them have all come down to either overtime or clutch minutes where it's close down the stretch of the game. So, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, man. I hear you. He deserves to do this performance, but it is right for the franchise with him being old. Yeah, that's the question that they got to ask themselves. That is the question that they have to ask themselves: is it right for where they're going? Haize, you have to admit it. The Bulls need to sign DeMar. $75 million for 3 years no. That's a stupid deal. Sorry, even if you're talking about re-signing DeMar, no, that is a god awful, stupid ass, dumbass deal for any franchise right now to give DeMar DeRozan, a 34-year-old player, $25 million a year. It's just not. Again, and as I said, I have a whole video titled it. Yes, his play has earned him a contract extension, but that doesn't mean he needs to get one. That's just the reality of it. At the very least, Kobe strained at least one of his hip and or groin muscles. That injury is low grade, requires 2 weeks of recovery. Jesus. We'll see. Let's not play chat doctor, but we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I don't really care about his efficiency going down and just the fact that sometimes his effort and his heart isn't there. I could agree with that one. I could definitely agree with that one. Definitely agree there. Oh, did I not update the thumbnail? I see what you're saying. Did I not update it to the Bulls one? That's embarrassing. Oh, yep. Got to definitely change that. Got to definitely change that. And bam. Making dope thumbnails is such an intricate ass. Bam. All right. And then we just got to go over here. Why am I signed into Locked On Bulls? Luckily, I didn't start streaming the Locked On Bulls, but hey. Come on. There we go. Bam. Updated. All right. Let's keep it pushing. What's up? Just dropped in to say, let's go Bulls, and DeMar is a monster. Absolutely, Quentin. Absolutely there, bro. I can see it both ways. DeMar's game theoretically should age well. He's not a spot-up shooter or anything, but he's a good closer vet. Career-wise, he should probably go to a contender and take a pay cut. I mean, it's a lot of different options to be there for DeMar DeRozan. And the thing is that the stretch that DeMar DeRozan has had with the Chicago Bulls, whereas the last time he was in free agency, a lot of teams just didn't think DeMar was still going to be able to perform this way. He's proved those teams wrong. So there's definitely going to be teams that are interested in him. Definitely going to be teams that are interested in bringing in DeMar DeRozan. Sweet Infinity says my new starter Io, Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, Craig, let Kobe take a relax. I mean, if he's able to go, you got to play him, right? Keep in mind the NBA's rules on rest now, but the thing, it comes down to that as well. Like if I give this as a big if he's ready to go, you play him. If he's not ready to go, you sit him, and you consider sitting him for a while, in my opinion, for a while. Oh man, Breeze is in the building. Says, I was surprised at that 45 plus stat that DeMar has now. I would have thought Rose would have been on that list as well. Well, keep in mind, Rose had a deep team. And while Rose had some extremely big games, he never really had to score the 40, 45 point games because we were such a deep team and we were a team that held on the leads, right? So I think that's a little bit of it when you really look at the games, and I would love to break down. That may be something I do as like a fun video. Let's break down every one of DeMar DeRozan's 45-point games as under the Chicago Bulls. I may do that like in the summer, not during the season. But if you look at that, I'm pretty sure a lot of that was We had players out with injury. So DeMar was the main scorer. I'm sure a couple of those came while Zach LaVine and Lonzo were out. But then on top of that, this team has not been a team that's been able to hold on the lead. So, those type of things. But Derrick Rose had one of the deepest teams in the NBA, and he had Luol Deng, he had Joe Kim, Ascension, right? Between those players, they were able to share that scoring load, and there was still a lot less points being scored as well during that time. So that's kind of the thought process there. Big Diesel says, Haize, I actually talked about that today. It's not about replacing DeMar. That is the most, and I'm not trying to come at you, but it's just that for a lack of a better way to explain it, that's the most 2K type mindset to have. I got to get somebody to bring in and replace exactly DeMar DeRozan's production. That's not how it works, right? You're not necessarily looking for that. If you move on from DeMar, you're looking for skill set. Whose skill set kind of fits better with how you're playing? Because if you can find somebody that more naturally fits, even if that player averages 16, 18 points per game, but if they're also a better defensive player, if they shoot a nice volume of threes, you're changing. It helps increase the way your team's trying to play, thus makes the offense easier for other players on the court as well. So it's not about just bringing somebody in to replicate what DeMar does one for one. So, that's a part of it. Leroy Jenkins Carter shouldn't get Kobe minutes. Give them to Dalen and the other young guys. Well, unfortunately, I get where you're coming from with that, but that's probably not going to happen. Like, as we know about Billy Donovan, he's going to trust the veterans first. I can't see him starting Dalen Terry. I mean, he's done it one game before, right, when Patrick Williams was down, so maybe he looks to do that. Maybe Ernalapa showed enough to where maybe you move Alex Caruso and Io up a spot and you slate in Ernalop there or Julian Phillips. We'll see, but I mean, hopefully it's not something we got to worry about. Hopefully it's not something that we got to worry about, because that's a weird place to be in, man. Mr. Shay's in the building says, do you think Kawhi Leonard plays tomorrow? Because he does have back spasms that he's been dealing with. I have no idea. I haven't talked to him. I haven't talked to the Clippers people. They haven't given me any inside edge on what the injury update is with Kawhi Leonard. I have no idea there, little brother. I have no idea, son. I wish I did, but yeah, I can't call it. I can't call it. Jesus Christ. Not Outlast Paces. That's fine. They'll understand. That's funny. Who cares about spelling the Pacers' name right? They suck anyway. No, I'm just playing. They suck. That's what Draymond did after their first title. They suck. There we go. But yeah, great. We're fun win by the Chicago Bulls, man. I always love it when our team's able to pull out a victory, especially a victory that it looked ugly at one point. It looked ugly. You let the Pacers go on a run, you let them come back, but you were able to battle back, and that's the most important thing. Mike Jones in the building says, with the Bulls still looking to revisit trading Zach, Billy going to hold on like hell to try to keep DeMar. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily true, and ultimately it's not Billy Donovan's decision. So we'll see what happens with that one. If DeMar wants to contend or go to the Spurs or something to retire, cool. But if we offload Zach, Zoe and Drum contracts, we may be able to keep him. That's true. But and that's the thing. It's not just about that. It's about also changing the roster. See, you notice that's why I said what I said in this. I didn't mention salary. What I just was talking about when it comes to DeMar, I didn't mention the actual value on the salary of the contract. It's just you got to think about where your team's going, where your team is at. Those are kind of the things you got to talk about. You got to think about the most, and if you want to kind of change up the mix to make it easy. Keep in mind, one of the things that hurts the Bulls offense so much is the fact that the Bulls do not get the easy offense that other teams generate. That's not just because of DeMar. I'm not blaming any one thing on DeMar, but it's just like you have to ask yourself that question, right? And if you can add shooters without doing that, if you do offload Lonzo's contract with the career-ending injury, again, you're not going to offload Zach LaVine's contract completely. You're going to take most of that money. You're coming back, so you're going to open up maybe a little bit room to move to add that to use that mid-level exception, but you still got to keep Drummond. You're still going to keep Patrick Williams. I won't necessarily say they have to, but they will, and that's where this team sits at the place of that crossroads of they have a lot of things that they want to keep, and only so many spots under the luxury tax that ownership doesn't want them to pay. And that's where you get put in that difficult position, right? Maurice says, what up, Haize? Hey, the Bulls should have got DeMar back in 2020 to pair with Derrick Rose. That would have been a terrible spacing team. Derrick Rose and DeMar DeRozan, come on, bro. DeMar deserves to be on a team that is playing for something bigger than the play-in, and he has given this team artificial wins in that way. It's hard to know how good our young guys are without him. I'm not somebody who, even when I look at DeMar, I'm necessarily saying he himself is limiting the development of the young players. I, for one, think it's about coaching, right? Look at it. Kobe, once he was thrust into the starting role, like I do think the time on the bench helped him, right? But that's helped him develop. You look at Dalen, minutes helped him develop. Julian, minutes helped him develop. A good coach to a great coach would find a way to make sure you work in developmental minutes on the court for your young players. So if I'm going to blame or put most of the blame on any one aspect of our young players not developing, it's that coaching doesn't coach for development. He's coaching for wins. And if you coach for wins, you're going to rely on DeMar DeRozan. And I think that's the part. I'm not blaming DeMar for the lack of development on the court for the young guys. I'm not going to do that. That goes to coaching. In my personal, humble opinion, that's what it is. But I'm not saying that's how everybody should feel either. Dan Miles says, give Kobe a ton of ice baths and a lot of Bengay and put him in that healing chamber that Goku after the fighting Frieza. That's crazy. That's crazy. Give him a sensu bean. Haize, everybody keeps talking about how those Derrick Rose teams. You also have to remember something. Everybody on that team, even the people that didn't shut people down, everybody played deep. Exactly. And it was a lot less points being scored then as well, right? I hear you that the Bulls can't look to replace DeMar 1-for-1, but you still need a vet closer with leadership in free agency. And I just don't. No, you don't need that. You don't absolutely. That. Nobody goes into it saying we need a vet leader with the closer. No, that's not what you need. Especially if you're hoping to develop that in young players. You look at first filling out your team. You don't say, I need a vet closer. No, you say, hey, we need some three-point shooting. We need somebody that can guard defense out on the wing that can help us with our pick and roll defense. Because at that point, you may not need a closer as much. And then because you don't have to rely on a closer, because you're then not saying, hey, we're going to give up every big lead, then you can let players develop more naturally in closing type situations. So that's just kind of the way that I look at it. But I understand your standpoint, right? It's not that I don't understand where you're coming from, because I do. I just don't agree for where the Bulls are now. But I definitely understand where you're coming from, brother. Definitely understand where you're coming from. Let's see. Yami Street Sports says DeMar DeRozan did his thing tonight. Absolutely he did. DeMar DeRozan came in and killed it. He completely killed it. I'm not talking about this young guy's development. I'm saying DeMar's given us much better record than we would have without him. But yeah, BD relying on DeMar is maybe more of the problem. Can definitely feel you on that one. Facts, the Bulls don't need a vet leader. We're not the Miami Heat. We need to build a squad first. Well, no, you can still, like, Caruso's a vet leader, right? Caruso is that. Torrey Craig is a vet leader, right? So though you still have, I'm not saying you want to go completely young and eliminate all your veterans. But again, those guys are guys that are on more reasonable contracts. Now, this completely goes away. If DeMar DeRozan comes in and says, listen, I just want to stay a Bull. I love what we're doing here. I love the relationship I have with these guys. I'll sign here for $18 million. Okay, that's a pay cut for what he's getting now. It's hard to not then say then maybe, right? But then you still have to then look and say, all right, is that savings that we're getting on DeMar DeRozan's contract, is that enough to add the shooting? Is that enough to add the rim protection? Does that put us in a spot to add those things that we need to even make put DeMar in a better situation? Because I'll tell you what, DeMar will be in a much better situation with having more shooters out there so that he can operate more in that mid-range and we still have proper spacing. So it's a lot of different routes that the Bulls can go with. It's a lot of different avenues. And we'll see where it's going to go. It's hard for many to wrap their heads around the fact that if we didn't have DeMar, we wouldn't need him. But we're sub 500 people. That's another great point there. JDH. Coach P in the building says, what about going after Miles Bridges? He would fit nicely next to Kobe, Ion P. Will, then go after Kyle Filipowski of Duke. I mean, it's easy to just throw out names there, but what the Brooklyn Nets would want back and what's reported, they want 2 first-round picks back for Miles Bridges. Oh, wait, no. You're talking about the Bridges. Is that the Bridges that's on Charlotte? I'm good on that one. I'm good on. We won't bring in Miles Bridges. And the reason why, I'm sorry, I was thinking about Mikal Bridges. Miles, keep in mind, AK has never signed a player on this team with character concerns. And I know he's gone through his thing. He's gone through his trial. He went through the legal process. But I don't see Arturas Karnisovas signing somebody that close to having that situation going on. I don't see it happening. Is this bad to say? Is it kind of a blessing to see how this team would play without Zach since his injury? I thought it would be a huge blow, but at least Acme feels confident to move on from him. I think that that's definitely something to see Io, to see Kobe grow the way that they've grown. I definitely think that that's part of why you hear the front office is still focused on moving Zach LaVine. Joe the Blacksmith, great game, great night. Thanks for bringing the community together, Haize. You're the man. I try, bro. I try. Listen, when I'm not being radical myself, I do try to bring everybody together. If the 98 Bulls team had stayed together and won their seventh championship in 99, do you think people would look at the Bulls and MJ differently because of the lockout season? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It is what it is. Sports fans are always reactionary to the moment without thinking of the future. People hated DeMar last week. This week they'll love him. The next week they'll be off him again. Always roundabouts. I mean, yes, some. There are some people who stick to their opinions for sure. It's the fact that I attended this game tonight, and to hear the stadium go silent when Debo hit that shot to send it into OT, bro, that shit was priceless. Hey, I've never been in an opposing stadium when the Bulls hit a game-winning shot. That's something I've never experienced, right? I've seen it happen in the UC, but I've never been there, and that's when I was a young kid anyway. I've never got to see that in another team's arena. I can only imagine how that would go. I can only imagine. Miles Bridges don't want to hoop. He wants to shoot. Wow. Okay. All right. I think Tobias Harris would be a good fit. Tobias could be a solid fit. Yeah. I think he's a free agent, right? How do you decide DNP? Do they decide during the game, before the game? No. So DNP means that they did not play. That's all that is. If you didn't play in the game, you didn't check in, then you're out. That's all it is. It's just that simple. So I don't think they go in saying, "Hey, you're about to be a DP today." But I do think they that throughout the game they realize, hey, he's probably not going to get minutes, and then it just ends up that way. Who would be the best big man or power forward player to add through the draft or in Europe that the Bulls could get to reinforce the front line depth? Might have to deep dive for Europe guys. No, there's a lot of really good bigs in this, but we'll cover that in the offseason. That's some of the things I'll be covering in the offseason. Do the Bulls have the full mid-level exception next year? And if so, which position do you spend it on? Yeah, they have the full mid-level exception every year. And the mid-level exception can be split between multiple players. So I'm not going to say one position yet. Again, I don't know all the free agents off the top of my head. That's something we'll definitely we'll cover in the offseason. We'll start looking at those things for sure. Lauren Jones in the building. What's going on, brother? To win in the playoffs, we need defense, and our guards can't be the only one to beat teams like the Boston and the Bucks. I like DeMar as a scorer, but his defense is trash. I mean, yeah, DeMar DeRozan, for all the greatness that he plays with offensively, he's terrible defensively, and he's always been terrible defensively. But the thing I always say is that the Bulls knew that. They had at that point, 10 years, 11 years worth of data to tell them that DeMar DeRozan wasn't a good player. So, I mean, a good defensive player. So they knew that. And that's why I always say you didn't sign DeMar DeRozan to play defense. Now, that doesn't mean that you completely excuse it when he gets blown up defensively sometimes, but they didn't sign him to play defense, right? That plays a part in that as well. I really hate ESPN's website. ESPN's website will randomly just start playing ads just to do it. Man, listen, everyone keep putting this mess on Zach, but both DeMar and Zach was playing to that ISO ball, but the whole team wasn't playing good at all. It's good that our boys stepped up. I mean, yeah, and I always say that too. You can't blame where the Bulls were just on any one player. Because Zach, DeMar, and Vooch are all shooting career lows at that point. All of them are shooting career lows at that point. His defense ain't all that trash. Also, a lot of games we lost wasn't because of his defense. That's cap. No, his defense is absolutely trash. Absolutely trash, especially in pick and roll. No, that's not cap. That's true. And where did anybody say we lost games just because of his defense? But guess what? When you have a bad defensive player, that absolutely contributes to every single loss because you need defensive stops. DeMar's trash defensively. He's always been trash defensively. His teams are always been, keep in mind, every year of DeMar's career, except his first year here, his teams had a better differential with him off the court than on the court. That's because of DeMar DeRozan's defense. DeMar DeRozan's defense has always been bad. Always been bad. Just reported from Casey Johnson, which isn't available to the media, but appears in good spirits post-game locker room. He's laughing with teammates and smiling. Now I can sleep. See, this is why I say people don't necessarily think that because of how ugly something looks, that it means that it's going to necessarily be the worst possible outcome, right? Because if you the people who've played sports before know, hell, I seen somebody get tackled and their whole leg flipped behind them, and I was like, damn, they had to have a knee injury. They get up, they sit down, they get some water, they go in the back, get checked out on, they're walking right back out, they're ready. You just never know, right? So we'll see what happens, man. A good win tonight. Glad to get the last laugh after Turner tried to hype players and fans. I mean, he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. So, Illini Cast in the building says, my issues with the team is with or without DeMar. I don't think our roster has a player that could be the best player on a championship team. Without that, our ceiling's limited. That's a very, very good way to look at it. No, hey, speaking that fact, Debo not a good defender like that, but he was never known for that. Exactly, right? And that's the thing. He was never known for that. I'd sit Kobe for 2 weeks. I mean, listen, like I said, to me, if you sit him for 2 weeks, just let him sit out the rest of the season. That's it. Yeah, that bending of the knee looked nasty. Hope he's all right. Definitely hope he's all right. Can't wait to watch your comments about that. What Vooch said on defense being hard. I didn't like his excuse. In a way, he's right, but still doesn't have to be the greatest defender. It's all about trying. Most of defense is about effort. Most of defense is about the thing that would take you from looking like an absolutely terrible defender to an okay team defender is just effort, right? That's just effort. You can be a good team defender and not be a good one-on-one defender. That comes to effort, right? Now, I could say this as well. There are some players that give effort and they're still just terrible defensively. And those are the ones that you look at and you're just like, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, there's no hope for you. So, but yeah, as you know, that comes down to it, man. I'm not saying that's Vooch either. I'm just saying it really does come down to effort because, again, like I said before, we've seen Nikola Vucevic go to a level defensively against certain centers, right? We've seen that against certain centers. And it's like, why? People must forget that Zach was here by himself for 5 years and they decided to get himself help after year 6 and he have one off year and now all of a sudden he sucks. Like, I don't understand. I don't think people are saying that for one off year. I don't think anybody's necessarily saying Zach sucks. But the thing is that Zach, yes, he was miscast as a number one. The roster was never his problem. He grew and he turned into an efficient offensive player then. The thing is, even then though, let's not act like Zach LaVine hasn't always made clutch mistakes with dribbles. Let's not act like his handles and his basketball IQ haven't always been bad. Those things have always been there, but he did turn himself into a hell of an offensive player. And that was the problem with how Garpax drafted. They drafted a bunch of players with no idea how those players were going to fit together. They put a terrible coach in place, and Zach was left to make the best of his career as he could. And he did a really good job at that. But the thing is as the expectations of the team shift, those glaring holes in his game become louder and they become able to focus in on more. When you're struggling to win 25 games, but you look extremely solid and efficient offensively, that's a little bit more forgiving. When you're trying to win 42, 45 games and you are making bad basketball IQ down the stretch, that becomes a little bit more glaring. That's all I'm saying, right? So the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, as it is with everybody. It's usually somewhere in the middle. Nah, first of all, don't you ever. My barbecue is top notch. Don't you ever. I will slow smoke some ribs in the smoker. I have a big ass smoker. That smoker gets some work. Brisket, ribs. What you talking about, bro? Come on now. You put that hickory wood in there. You let that mug cook for about 8 hours, bro. Come on. What are we talking about? We don't when you put your and you call it a slow cooker. Come on, bro. Don't no black person call it a slow cooker, man. Call it what it's called, man. What we talking about, bro? A crock pot. Call that motherfucker a crock pot. I know that's a brand name, but call it what it's called. If you cook ribs and if you either boil ribs or cook them in a crock pot, the terrorists win. What are you talking about, bro? It's ironic Debo hits buzzer beaters in Indy. That's crazy. That's definitely crazy. Zach is a star for a reason. He's good at what he does, pretty much. An all-star. He is not a superstar. I really like Zach LaVine in the Olympics. That's why I say when Zach LaVine, if he is traded and he does go to a team with a true number one, people are going to look at Zach and be like, hey, this kid is really good. Really good. Reginald Short says Zach has two problems: low IQ decisions and lack of defensive effort. That's a fact. That's a fact. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this post-game show. This was really fun, man. We appreciate you guys. Got to get ready to go over there and do Locked On, man. Make sure you guys stay locked in with the team. Follow the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270 damn, I forgot my own number. 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red, and we get to play the winning outro. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.
I see red, I see red, I see red, I see red, yeah, I see red.